This is the old new system. It's everything. It's the way the boardroom used. Call to order the Gateway Board of School Directors Study Session Meeting, Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Bonnie.
Mrs. Byrne. Present. Mrs. Cerrucci. Here. Mr. Lapsevich.
Here.
Mr. Nola. Here. Mr. O'Donnell. Here. Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mr. Stubenbort.
Here.
Mrs. Warning. Here. Mr. Williams.
Here. Anybody sign up to speak, Bonnie?
No, no one.
Comments from residents? Richard? No comment? Paul, Section B, bills and financial reports.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I just wanted to note that we will have for the regular board meeting on January 17th, 2017, a list of bills for January 2017. Also, we will have the monthly financial statements for November and December 2016, as well as any applicable budget transfers for January 2017. In addition, I'd like to note that we will also have the local auditors will be present and attending our regular board meeting to briefly review the results of the 15-16 fiscal year audit. I did send that, copy of that audit report out to the board last week. So again, that was filed with the district, and we have done the required advertising for that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Schott.
Thank you, sir.
We don't have anything tabled, do we? Section D, personnel agenda. Ms. Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 5 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, January 17, 2017. You will see one resignation listed. Under transfer, per the collective bargaining agreement, you will see 6 different names for transfer. Leave of absence, there are 3. Due to the early meeting, we could probably add a couple more at the end, so we'll email that out to you. For employment, you have 3 names listed. We will also have an additional name to present for a long-term sub for Jen. We're doing interviews this week, and we'll have a name for you by the end of the week. Substitute teachers, there are 3 names listed. A teacher aide. That should be substitute custodian, I apologize. That's an error on there. Supplemental contracts, 1 issuance, and 4 volunteers.
Questions, comments? Mr. Nola?
Yeah, we'll start at the back since I'm on that page. Did the assistant basketball coach quit?
Yeah.
We're like 13, we're 9 games into the season already. We're approving this, there'll be 13 games into the season when this is approved. The person quit?
The person did not quit. The applicant did not get all of their information in time until just now. So that's why it's being listed as there.
Have they been coaching?
They have been working as a volunteer. As we have been stating with Mr. Rivesti, until it gets board approved, the person can only work if we have all the clearances in. We are allowing them to volunteer on a volunteer basis with the coach until formal approval is done.
No backman?
It's all 1 supplemental for that time period.
So this person is working, he's helping the coach.
Correct.
Working with kids.
Correct.
Does he have clearances
Yes.
that are applicable?
We do not let them go out without the clearances. We might have been waiting for like a TB test or some of his other forms.
Just a minute.
I have a question then. In the past, we've had where people have gotten an issuance midway through the year, they would get a percentage of that. does this set us up for other people coming and saying, well, this
We
person
can
only?
ask Mr. Rivesti. On the one instance that we had, we went back and asked the coach to give us specifically when they
Well, no,
started.
I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about we've had other items filled partway through the year and they get, let's say it's 50%, then they get 50% of the supplemental amount. So if this person's only working for,
My understanding with this person is that they were there at the beginning. It's just been the paperwork. But I will double check with Mr. Rivesti. I'll let you know
How
for
long
sure.
have we been waiting for paperwork?
Because we only had one meeting in December, that kind of held us up on the instance with this. It was a timing issue.
But how,
So we may have had it like December 4th.
do you have all the paperwork now?
Yes.
So how long did it take that person? How tardy were they? What were you talking
I
about?
couldn't tell you right off the top of my head. I would have to look for it and see. We are working with Mr. Rivesti and the coaches on new procedures for paperwork and processing.
I'm not too concerned about Rivesti. I'm more worried about all these other people that we've prorated and this individual, we're saying, well, you don't have to prorate. You should have had the paperwork in by months ago. You're late, but we're still gonna pay you the full amount.
That's
If I were
sort of
someone that got a
that's sort of
part-time-
what I'm wondering.
If I got a prorated amount, I would come and say, well, you guys are handing out full amounts. I'd like it.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll change it to be determined for right now, and then I will double check with Mr. Rivesti on the timelines that the person was
On
working
when
on
the
capacity.
final clearance came in for the health related.
For instance, we had a football
prorated
coach,
from
right?
there.
And they were on a volunteer status. They never were board approved as a coach and they did not get paid. Is that an accurate statement?
Correct.
So I'm
We
making the
can do
assumption,
that.
I'm making the assumption that before the basketball, when did basketball season start?
30th. Their first game was
Back in November.
12-9.
Okay, in November, that somewhere
played
in
before that.
October, you asked
That was the
for
first
that
game.
paperwork, right?
I'll have to look to see when his name was
We
given
didn't
to
ask
us.
the day before November 1st, right?
It depends on when we got the information. Again, the postings go out, just like today, an example would be, we put out the postings for fall.
Okay.
That goes out to all the staff. It then goes to Mr. Rivesti, who distributes it to the coaches. From then, the coaches look at it and they give us recommendations for who the assistant coaches are. So depending on who they've contacted, some instance, Bonnie may be my first choice, but she's decided she's not gonna do it, so now I have to go to Paul. So there is a timing issue. It's not one of those things where we sit and automatically say, we need a supplemental coach, and they're there.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you said maybe he just doesn't have his TB test or whatever, okay? But he can still practice with the kids voluntarily, right?
Yes.
Well, if he doesn't have all of them, I don't want him on the floor volunteering or anything. I mean, he could have TB. We're worried about everything else. How do I know he doesn't have TB? The thing is, if he doesn't have all the clearances, I don't even want him to practice with the kids.
Okay.
I just think we need to make sure we're following protocol that we have across the board. I don't want to have a
Well, now
special.
originally, and I will bring that back again, and prior to this year,
You sign
we
that.
did approve people
Volunteer
pending.
status.
Well, even before they had all their paperwork, it was pending that they have the
Right.
clearances. It doesn't come to you now until they have all of their clearances and everything.
But I guess my assumption was, perhaps I'm wrong in this, was that we're approving the prior or pending clearances be provided, but that's not the okay to go ahead and work with kids, was it, or is it?
It was before.
It was before.
It was before.
Well, I think George's point is a good one. If there's a health issue here,
Okay.
We should
Again, we're
know.
working with Mr. Rivesti on a timeline and paperwork that's kind of going to document everything, and we'll clear that out. So
I
we'll
think
present
the
that to you
easiest-
once we're done.
I think the easiest way is that, again, if I'm off base, say so, but if somebody doesn't start working, volunteer or otherwise, with students until they have all of the required clearances and other paperwork completed required by the board. Is that not okay?
And they don't get back pay either,
Well,
because we've
that's
never
a
done that
second issue.
previously.
Is that okay?
Correct. One of the things that we met with, I met with Mrs. Crump and Mr. Rivesti 2-3 weeks ago, and within the coach's manual, there's an attachment that will be listed that has a complete check mark of everything that must be turned in for an assistant coach in order to be board approved and then authorized to coach. So everything must be checked off, including the health, whatever FBI.
And we
Child
can add a
endangerment.
statement to the bottom of that telling them that they
Yes,
can
but-
volunteer on a volunteer basis, but they will only be paid prorated from the time that we receive all
No,
clearances.
no, we're saying they can't
What we're
volunteer.
You
saying
can't have
is-
any people working with kids who don't have clearances, period.
Well, no, they have all of their clearances.
Okay.
But all their tests too.
All of the tests done
Okay.
as well.
We want everything.
Well, we don't allow parents to volunteer.
Well,
They don't have their clearance.
the TB one, I know for a fact that we've done teachers and stuff because depending on when they can go to the county, when they can go to the hospital, we've allowed people previously to sign an affidavit, and then they have to bring it to us within like a few days. That I'm fine with, but this seems like it was months. That's a completely different story.
Okay. Can I ask the attorney something?
Chelsea.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If the board wishes to have all the clearances before anybody steps onto the football field or basketball court or whatever, can we vote on that tonight and to make that,
Not tonight, you can do it at your voting meeting, however, if you're gonna create a policy, you
Policy.
have to go through the policy provisions.
okay.
Creating the policy, putting it out for 30 days, I believe, and then you can follow through. However, George, it's implicit in the law, in Act 153 and the others, I forget the other act numbers, that require those clearances to volunteer and work.
Yes.
So I think what's happening is you can have volunteers, like say I came here to volunteer, gave them all of my clearances, and I choose to help volunteer for the girls' basketball, but I don't give them my health record. So volunteers don't have to do that, but employees do. And so it's a higher threshold for an employee. So I think that's why Trish and,
Which is why the volunteer status for this
Right.
current employee until the health test came in, thus we're pending board approval. And then Mr. Stubenboard asked a question about proration of salary.
Yeah,
So just to be clear then, what we're saying here as a board, what I understand as a board member, is that employees, supplemental, full-time, part-time, whatever the case may be, are not having contact with our children until all of the requisite data that you require is provided and in hand, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But George is
State
saying,
mandated.
George is saying even volunteers, if they're helping with a sport or
But I think it's the
activity.
same now. We
want
want
everything.
volunteers.
Yeah, and
Volunteers
It was
and
updated
employees.
and changed.
It's the same.
George, the
the
only,
volunteers and employees for clearances are the same. However, as what I'm saying is, if I come here to volunteer, I do not have to give my health record. I
No,
don't have
but
to
you
show.
have to do the TB test.
You have to do a TB test.
All right, well, the TB test, but there might be other. I'm trying to think.
I don't think that there's a difference,
What other
actually.
health records are
Not
required
now.
for a
Like,
For the volunteers, they also have to have a TB test.
Right.
If you're employed, though, you have to give a physical and a TB test.
That's what I mean. I knew there was something more that.
the only suggestion, George, I would have with the policy, just from being on the policy committee is, I would, right now it reads following the law, so I would just make sure from our end, from the school district's end, all laws have been followed, just because those can change. So we don't want to have to keep changing the policy as the laws change. But I think just, to Steve's point, making sure there's no oversight here on this one, like there was another one, and make sure everything was followed.
Now, the second point, so again, just to understand this, it's employees, substitutes, part-time, full-time.
And again, it's
Supplemental.
easier for us to do that on all of the regular ones. Athletics, because of the timeliness of it, that's where the issue is. It's more in that field than
Okay.
it is with any other category.
Understood. So what we're saying is that those folks have to meet all of the requirements of your office, okay, before they have contact with kids, okay?
yes.
And volunteers have to meet other standards. They are less strict.
It sounds to me though. I didn't even know
I
about
think
the
that's the
TB
same.
test,
Maybe the only difference could be a physical.
The
but
physical
they're the
form,
same.
yeah.
Okay.
Same standard.
but yeah, the same clearances. are-
Because it has to do with interaction with kids. You can actually volunteer and not have interaction with kids. That's a different standard.
Correct.
Volunteer without interaction with the kids.
It's different,
Which is hard to
correct.
do.
However, that, regardless of that, you still need the 3 clearances and the TB test to volunteer.
So we're making sure everything was followed correct.
We
I
got,
was
we
just
got,
saying this, Stephanie, but a physical can turn stuff up like pink eye or something like that. which- Yeah, that you don't want volunteers or particularly staff or anybody interacting with kids. Yeah, lice is another, I'm assuming that's the reason those things are put in place.
There's no physical right now for volunteers. I think if you make people go through a lice test
You're
and a
not
pink
gonna
eye
get
test,
anything, yeah.
we're not gonna have
Okay,
anything.
but
No,
I-
the physical is a standard
I'm a-
physical that's only given to employees, and it's a Pennsylvania physical, it's an actual form
I'm
that
only
they have to
trying-
give to their physicians.
I'm only trying to understand what we require. So, anybody who gets paid by us,
I think we should just follow the law. That's the bottom line. Whatever the law says to do, that's what we should do. It's clear. The law clearly says you need these things to interact with kids. You need these things if you want to volunteer at the school. It's clear. It's
Is
not,
that
there's no black
accurate?
and white. I mean, it is black and white.
As far as the
Let
employment,
us
yes.
submit, and I know we have this to the board, the addendum that we're putting in the coach's handbook, so everyone can look at it.
I think the second one though, for Friday's board packet, can we get what the prorated
Yes,
pay
I
will be?
get that from the coach.
From the time board approval or from the time of submission of the,
Board approval, just like everyone else.
It's not even approved.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it won't be approved till next week.
Yeah, so prorate whatever it would be for 2 weeks from now.
Okay, can I ask a question here? Now, from what I have seen in the past, papers are flying everywhere as far as when they're bringing in their clearances. Randy gets some, Mrs. Crump gets some. Is there a general location that it's all going to go to?
What is supposed to happen as far as each of the groups, it's like the food service department, they collect all of their paperwork. Once it's completed, they give it to us. For athletics, we made a checklist for them, so that way they knew what they had to have, and we make them packets. They distribute the packets because the coaches they actually kind of talk to them first. Give them the packets, and then it's to be distributed back to the athletic office, which then in turns, once we get a complete packet, comes to us.
I'm actually okay with approving stuff pending the clearances. If we keep track of when the clearances came in, they got them all, then they can start like immediately, because otherwise may have to wait an entire month.
Well,
And that's
that
not really, I don't think that that's fair.
considering the one meeting in December.
Right, I just don't think that that's fair, actually.
Because
So-
that's what
but
we
I'm
used to
okay
do.
with the pending, but it has to literally be pending the clearances.
Not
When
months.
you say the clearances are in, then they can walk on the field. Until that, they shouldn't be on the field. That's the bottom line.
Correct.
Because I don't think we should be holding people up for it. Like, if this person got their stuff in December 12th, for instance, and we're looking at it right now, technically, they probably should be paid from the December 12th. But the problem was, we never got it on there, because now we switched it to say, don't do it until they get the clearances. But I think that it's okay to say pending clearances.
Yeah, as long as they're not going out till everything's met. So I
Right.
think just make sure there's no oversight. Look at what the prorated would be.
Okay, question it.
Well, good.
Whose responsibility is it going to be? Well, is it going to be the food service manager? Is it going to be the athletic director? Is it going to be you, the secretary? Who's going to be responsible for making sure everything is in that packet that they have done?
We make sure everything is in the
Who's we?
packet. Human Resources Office. So
Okay.
like if they send us down a packet, Patty sends out emails to each of the persons. Food service doesn't send us anything until they're
Okay.
complete. Athletics, sometimes it is a little bit hit and miss. So we send emails back stating, we still need this for these people. That's then forwarded to the coaches to make sure that we get it.
So personnel department, HR department is going to be responsible then for saying everything's okay?
Correct.
Okay. That's-
Well, they'll be responsible for saying everything's okay.
But
I
that
believe
means-
it's
No, for collecting.
the coaches and the athletic director is responsible for allowing that person on the field or not. 'Cause
Well, what I'm
I can't-
saying is
I can't have
she's
this crump up there saying, hey, you shouldn't be.
Great.
Clearance has to come via communication up to Mr. Avesti's office, email saying this coach has been cleared, allowed to
Up
coach.
until that point, it's up to the
Not allowed.
coaches and the athletic department to say they're on the field or not.
And that's why we're working on a handout to go into the coaches manual, to
So
kind
the
of clearly
coaches know
spell it
up
out.
front the expectation of clearances.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions under Section D, Personnel
Yes.
Agenda?
I never got to my second one yet. Okay. I'm sorry that I started that.
No, you're not.
Okay. Under the section 4A, You have the substitute teachers, and you have the asterisk, and it says who it is. That's actually pretty awesome. But up on the one above that, you have the asterisk, and it doesn't say who it is. Can we just,
Of which one?
But you have to look at the
That
last
says pending
page what they mean.
We asked for that, what Neil's
no,
asking.
I'm saying is, this says daughter of Patty Varela.
But those ones only need documentation, if you look at the key.
The 3 stars.
Only need documents.
See, look at
Right,
the
the
key.
3 stars means that
It's
they're,
like the map.
Neil, see the
What-
key
what
on the
Neil-
All right,
next
so
page?
that's pending documentation?
There you
Hey,
go.
Neil,
Yes.
what you're asking for, we've asked your department to do
Yes.
before.
Well, that's-
And that is,
it's
if
just
you
saying
3
they did.
stars,
2 stars.
2 stars tell us what it is, so we just don't have to keep
It
going
is,
back to
it
the
is.
key.
It is, that's right.
Just- Then just say pending documentation.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
I agree with you, actually. Yeah. All right, I think that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions under Section D, Personnel Agenda? Moving on, Conference and Conventions.
Take section E. We have a individual that replaced one of our school police officers at the previous month's regular board meeting. One of our school police officers was approved to be SRO trained. This individual subsequently took the place of the other individual, and of course, the cost associated with that. So we just wanted to have this name officially approved that attended the SRO training.
And it always says no additional cost to the
Yes,
public.
exactly.
Can I just ask a stupid question? I know this, but did they not know that this is nothing against anybody, but did they not know that he was going to be going in his place in December, when this took place in November?
These were approved in October.
Yeah.
Yeah, around
Yeah, he's
October.
resigned after that.
Okay.
I think it's just administration wanting.
to record it.
To document.
Yeah, we just wanted
It's
to
just a
document
right
that
name.
there was another individual officially SRO.
I got
The
you.
right name on record for
Yes.
SRO training.
Good.
Any other questions? Seeing none? Section F, Administrative Report.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We have a number of items for board review. I'm going to defer to Mr. Schott.
So he can see that.
He can say the first one.
That's going to be a little
Mr.
bit.
Schott?
All right. Item number 1 is facility rental agreements.
Who's it for, Mr. Schott?
Yeah, the School of Dance, as indicated, Performing Arts Center and the cafeteria utilized at the high school in the amount of $2,732.50. Item number 2 is our usual resolution we're required to pass at this particular time of year for the 17-18 budget. Again, this is not setting the millage rate. This is just essentially the tax rates not to exceed the index for 17-18. This allows us to stay on the old timeline in terms of budget approval and the budget process. Again, that's all this resolution will do for that. We're just stating that there would be a tax increase. We're not saying there is going to be a tax increase that would not exceed the index amount of 2.9%, which is our calculated amount for the 17-18 fiscal year. Again, just as one of the requirements, one of the options available for school districts in utilizing and working towards their 17-18 fiscal year budget.
Mr. O'Donnell said no new tax.
I said what?
No new tax.
No new taxes, that's
That's actually
correct.
previously enacted tax.
Item number 3 also is our annual resolution to advertise for bids for general fund for various school supplies for 17-18. Again, this just allows us to utilize and to begin the process of acquiring actual numbers for these various items and categories of items. Item number 4, administration seeking renewal of the charter for Propel Charter School Pitcairn for additional 5 years for July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2022, as depicted in the request letter in Exhibit A. And again, looked at a number of different documents provided by Propel. If anyone would like to see any of them, I have them. I looked at their various local audit reports. There was a state audit report. There were some performance reports, a report looking forward for the next 5 years that they had to submit to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. So again, that's part of our one of our steps that we have to review those documents from the school prior to presenting this for approval.
Will the board get a synopsis of their performance as it relates to our students before we make a decision to?
I think we can emphatically answer that question for you without documentation, but we far surpass the Propel Charter School in Pitcairn for academic performance, but we can
Okay,
submit
good.
to you this.
Can we publish it?
We can make that available on the website.
So if a board member chose to vote against it, then that board member would be able to support that vote by citing that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But,
Chelsea, for your legal opinion, because I called Bruce on this one earlier.
and there we go. Mr. Superintendent.
This was already done, and this is done many a time across
Yeah.
the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Unless something egregious is done by that charter school,
So-
performance can't alone be the basis for a school district not approving, correct?
To deny a charter.
Correct, performance alone. There's actually, I believe, 5 subjects in which you can deny, you would look under to deny the chart, under the charter school law of denying a renewal of a charter. The packet of information that was provided to Mr. Schott and outlining all of the financials, probably the student attendance, it probably indicated performance standards. Those are the things, and if you have concerns, you can raise concerns, and there's a actual timeline in which you have to do that to combat or to raise concerns about renewing the charter. I don't have the actual timeline in front of me. I can get that to you. But there's certain, I believe by October 15th, they have to provide you with the information.
Their initial request letter.
Yeah, and I
That
can't
they're
remember, but I
requesting for
have the
renewal.
timeline in my office. I can provide that to you if there's something that is of grave concern to the school board and the 5 reasons of why they would want to deny a renewal. They actually can request a hearing on it. It goes first before you, then it can go before,
PD.
it's not the charter school board, I forget what it's, the CAB. It's charter, I can't remember what the initials stand for, but it is in Harrisburg, and they will actually, you can litigate the matter and decide whether, in fact, you can renew the charter or not.
Okay, so wouldn't
or
it be
deny the
prudent
renewal.
for the board to have those criteria and the performance against those criteria before we vote?
We can break down that information because it's substantial, and we can just bullet the information.
And I'll email Mr. Short all of the information of the law, and we can go through it.
How many kids do we have at Propel? Take care.
It's been dwindling over the last several years. I know Paul has it in the multi.
Just to give you an idea, I just pulled the numbers for last year, and again, these are a number of regular ed, special ed students. Now, they may have been enrolled there for 1 day. I mean, it's possible for that. 116 total students. We paid $1,488,000 in tuition.
Okay.
That's and then looking at the list, our largest charter school that we pay student tuition to.
They're the only one that comes before us and requests a renewal of a charter, correct?
No. The
No.
only reason
We
we
have,
have Propel Pitcairn and Spectrum Charter School, because they're located within
Okay,
the
so
school
2
district,
of them
just
count.
those 2.
So is it unreasonable, tell me, to ask you to provide us with the enrollment data for the 5 years? So year 1, it was whatever it was, year 2 is a trend up
We
and
can
down.
provide that.
Pardon?
I want to say, yeah, we could provide that.
Okay.
At one point, we were 3 million.
I'd have to go back and
It's
actually.
actively been trending down since
Yeah,
the school.
so
was
it's-
open.
I mean, in terms of, this is a schedule here.
Yeah.
We actually do one of these every year.
Okay.
To see, I mean, I could go back for the last 5 years and provide the number of regular ed, special ed, how much we paid out. So if you'd like to see that amount, to see what the trend is in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like that. Okay.
Yes.
I'd like that, and I'd like the performance data and against the 5 criteria in front of us, so if we make a decision.
Yeah, I'll get you that.
And if this board votes to approve it, there's no hearing, but if we vote not to approve it, then we've got the reasons in front of us as to why we aren't going to approve it.
I can also send you all the reports that I was sent from their director, if you would like to take a look at those. I mean,
is it
it's very
voluminous?
inclusive. I mean,
Is it
again,
30, 40 pages?
deeper than
No,
that.
It's literally this
Like
stack.
120.
it's that entire stack.
I have them electronic format. I mean, I can send them to you if you care to
It's
take a
pretty
look
easy.
at
to
them.
And I'm
read through.
assuming if Paul thought they were in violation of the 5 things, or they were.
No, we
something,
take
we
your
just
word.
let us know they wouldn't recommend the approval. I think
Well,
it's
he
good for us
doesn't-
to be knowledgeable on this.
I don't think he recommends or doesn't
Isn't
recommend.
it on here because you recommend it or not?
No,
Well,
it's-
I mean-
It's because we have to recommend it or not.
I mean, I've
Paul,
reviewed.
I don't want to be buried in paperwork, and maybe what they're doing is trying to bury us in paperwork.
No,
Yeah,
no,
that's a
I
comment.
actually requested
Huh?
these
That's a
documents,
Yeah.
multiple years of documents too.
I'm sorry.
I actually requested the documents from them to
Okay,
take a
so-
look at.
I
So.
mean,
We can submit to the board.
Extract
Breakdown.
the stuff there that enables us to make an informed decision,
Yes.
okay? Along with that enrollment data, we get a better picture of where we're going forward, where we're coming from. This has been a big issue when I was on the board last time. Dr. Drumheller raised it on any number of occasions, concerns about the performance of charter schools, the amount of money that's going out, how the money's being spent, are the related party transactions, are the related party transactions open, transparent, are they based on comparable standards, all those kinds of things.
Services provided to special education students. for
Yeah,
Boston.
one of the stories I get is that, and I don't know, I can't confirm this, but X number of students go to Propel as regular education students on week 1, and by the end of the week, they're special education students. Now, that drives our cost up from what, 14 or 13,000?
Probably 32,
To
30.
17.
Yeah, because I don't know how that can happen, but
One of my understanding in terms of denials of these is that they're going to be overturned.
I hear you on that. Now, you
Yeah, I
said
mean,
that the
it's-
last time
yeah.
through, but,
That's
you know,
what-
it's not
That's what we've been told
necessarily-
historically. That's what it's been at this, from what I've heard at the state level.
I mean, I don't want to joust with windmills, but on the flip side, if, for example, that's happening, we've sent 10 students there, and within a very short period of time, they go from regular education to special education, shouldn't we be asking why? Whether whether the people in Harrisburg are going to approve it or not.
A lot of transition within Propel Pitcairn.
Hmm?
A lot of transition with students, not only within our school district, but the Woodland Hills surrounding area, East Allegheny, who sends kids to Propel as well.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just talking about our
Yeah.
kids, just our kids.
You're asking why our kids leave here regular and become special ed.
Yeah, my understanding is that's happened.
Well, roughly, do we know how much an appeal would cost in Harrisburg if we were to vote this down?
Well, I would have to get back to you. I know that I've done, I did it one other time in another school district, so I could try to pull the bill and see what it was to give you an idea. There's also the time requirements, because they have, and I was just pulling it up, you have to ask them for certain records, which you did, within 60 days of that initial, we want to renew. Within 45 days after that 60-day mark, so I don't know when they send it in, but then you have to tell them whether you deny the renewal. So there is a time crunch here, and I don't know where we are in that timeline.
October 13th is when they sent this letter to
All right,
Bill.
so then it would be November 13th, December.
No, October, yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
so it would be November 12th, then December 12th is the 60 days, then you have
So it'd be into
45 days.
February. Yeah, we'd
from-
have time.
Okay.
I have two questions on it, though. I understand where you're coming from, Steve. I think the biggest thing is we need to control what we can control, which isn't Propel, it's Gateway. Making sure we are providing a higher academic standard, making sure that our educational experience is superior to theirs, so that they continue to come back to Gateway, which we've seen that trend happening. The question I have, and I guess I'm just looking for other board members' input. Last budget session, I brought up kind of an idea, and I just want to know whether or not we should look into it more or not. But hiring someone as a 1099 employee and incentivizing them for every individual you can bring back from Propel to pay them a specific amount. Because for every student we bring from Propel, that's $14,000 now that we are not sending outside of the district. So if let's say there's 200 kids that go to Propel, let's give them $1,000 for every student they can bring in. We're talking about saving a large amount of money. And if not that, that's obviously very outside of the box. If not that, I think we should definitely look into a marketing campaign. Buy the billboard in Pitcairn and show, hey, what's Gateway's school performance profile versus Propel's? What is our graduation versus Propel's? What is our post-secondary education percentage versus Propel's? Those are statistics that I think the people need to know. I think a lot of people originally, once Pitcairn Elementary was closed, went there, and I think they've started to see the educational experience is not where we're at. And I mean, the numbers don't lie. We are a superior school district. I think we just need to get that information out there. So whether we hire someone to bring them back, which I know we were starting to do, not so much hiring, but we had individuals reaching out to those families. We invited people to come take tours of the district, which I think we should continue to do. But I think we should start a marketing campaign to show people we're the superior district. People are going to start making these decisions where their kids going to school next year. I think they should pick Gateway, and I think we should show them why they should pick Gateway.
I couldn't agree more. That's, we talked about that in the last, for a while here about a marketing campaign, and there's no question that once we get into that, we ought to target those families so that they, it's to our best interest, it's in our best interest, but it's also in their kids' best interest, presumably, to come back to a better school.
And we've had internal conversations even today about one of our local parochial schools that we received word potentially could be shutting down. That's been around for a number of years. That impacts probably 45 to 50 students in the elementary grade levels that we're going to be sending information literature out to.
But we don't pay for them.
Correct.
We pay for
However,
transportation.
they have other options and
Yes,
transportation.
right, absolutely. I agree with you.
Now, are we able to see what students are attending Propel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have the list from the bills.
So we can see, okay.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, I'd say let's get our ducks in a row, but we should be doing mailers to them, we should do calls to them, we should have, building principals, administration reaching out to them and saying, hey, come take a tour of Gateway, see what we have to offer. They might have moved 3-4 years ago. I personally know a few families that have since come back, and just show them, hey, here are the improvements. I mean, our scores have only continued to go up over the past several years. Let's show it to them.
Do we want to put some kind of word out that we're in the market for a marketing firm? Because we don't have a marketing department or a communications director anymore.
I don't think we should go to that extent yet. I think we should compile the numbers, see what we have. I mean, I think that's something someone in administration or someone up at the high school could even put together a simple billboard that shows our school performance profile versus theirs.
But along Mary Beth's lines, if we're going to, and I've made this point privately, if we're going to impact that population, then you have to repeatedly contact them in various ways with various different kinds of products, just over and over and over again, demonstrating the quality of our product. We don't even have to necessarily disparage them. And since we don't have a department to do that, I think we'd be wise to put that on the burner, and I know we have dollars in the budget to do that. And I think it could come right on the heels of what you're saying, get the data, and then let's start a program. Because if we pull back 20 kids next year, that's worth it.
Part of what we've done in the past is when we begin, I want to say in March, looking at kindergarten registration, start attacking some of these families who are sending kids to Propel with literature.
Good.
So,
I like the billboard idea in Pitcairn, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it's a good idea, I think, because kids move in and out a lot down there. It's not something you do just once a year.
Yep.
And there's also rumors going around that a performing arts charter school may be going in down in Wilmerding, which will also target us. So yes, I think it's something we need to do.
The board all knows this already, but one of the reasons we get targeted is because of our cost per student. That is, they're not as likely to target kids from a district where the per capita cost is $8,000 or $9,000.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Public's 8,000.
Yeah, they're going to target the
14,000.
schools where we're 14,000. I mean, I understand that, but we just can't stand by. So.
and knowing that compared to surrounding school districts, they can't compete with us academically, program-wise, and they know that.
Yeah. Also brings up another good point. We should look at lowering the average cost per student, but that's for another day.
Another I'll come up with the budget.
Where are we at? Moving on. Yes,
Item number 5,
number 5.
seeking approval for the compensation of real estate tax collectors for 2018 through 2021. Again, this is a resolution we put on, that we're required to put on prior to any candidates desiring to run for the office of real estate tax collector in the municipality of Monroeville or the borough. And again, as indicated in this resolution, looking at holding the compensation for the 4 years frozen at the same amounts as the current 4-year period for those 2 offices.
Just ask a question
Is the
on that.
current? Good. Good.
We pay the tax collector in Pitcairn, about half of what we pay the tax collector in Monroeville, according to this. But they collect only, 10% of our overall gross revenue?
These have been, since I started the district, these have been the long-established rates. And however they were originally developed, I honestly can't say
Do we have a say in this?
how the initial first numbers started for that. What we've done is continually utilize those. Just to give you an idea in terms of the last cycle, when this was approved, we actually did bump the very first year by 2%. And the reason why we had done that, I think 2 prior to that, it was frozen as well, if I recall correctly. We bumped it the one time because they implemented installment payments. So there was some additional work on the part of the real estate tax collectors. But again, that was the last time that we made any type of an adjustment to these. But in terms of how these originated many years ago, I can't say how that was calculated.
Does it make sense to what I'm raising to the board? We pay, half as much as we pay on Monroeville to collect 10% of or whatever we collect out of it.
Yeah, it seems absurd.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
It
sense.
just seems like a lot of money in general.
Are these numbers set, or do we have to go with the elected person, or is this an additional duty that we're just giving to the elected official, correct?
Well, for them to collect for the district, both of them do collect for a district. This is what these amounts represent and I'll call them their base amounts, because as is also indicated in there, there's actually a commission of 1.5% for any interim bills which would be billed and collected during that. So
On top of this?
yes. And traditionally, I can say municipality in Monroeville, there'll be maybe one additional one based on some small interim amounts that
How
come
much
in.
money is that?
I'd have to even pull to see the last one for that, but.
But is this a state, like, if you run for magistrate, there's a set cost established
Yes.
by the state? This is whatever's set by us then, or?
Yes, this is set by us. This is a requirement that we have to do. I forget by what date in February.
But they have to do, it has to be that person.
Well, we set this ahead of time, so not only the incumbents, if they would desire to run again, anyone else who would desire to run, they know up front exactly what they would be compensated for.
Well, for instance, I know like Monroeville, there's parts that the elected tax collector collects via law, and then there's another additional tax that they allow him to collect that they pay him for. So is this the one by law then? This is the real estate tax, or?
This is a real estate tax, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So could we say, just for giggles and kicks, could we say that if we're willing to pay $38,500 for $40 million, of tax collection in Monroeville, then take whatever we collect $4 million out of Pitcairn, so we'd only pay 10% of that $38,000, so $3,800.
Yeah, and again.
Just asking that it be linear. Just asking that it be linear, whatever amount it goes away.
Yeah, proportional. This seems like it's a real windfall for the Pitcairn folks.
Well, and again, I mean, these are the long-standing rates that
Right.
we've adjusted every year, so.
So can we come up with another, would you come up with another methodology of assigning rates as opposed to just the historical one?
I'm not sure, and would have to probably get some legal guidance in terms
I
of
would have to
making that
look
change.
this up. I don't know
midstream.
that, yeah.
I don't think that, I mean, just right off, at first blush, I'll just say that. I'm not sure if we could upset the apple cart midstream for that.
Well, it's not midstream if we have to
We're not
approve it right now.
midstream if we're putting it out for bid.
Right, so I would have to see if there's anything
it
under the
19
Local Tax Enabling Act or something like that that would
but White and Pebble.
would not allow you to use these rates. I think you could probably set whatever rate you want, but I don't.
Like, is this what, does
I wanna make
Monroeville
sure.
pay him 38,000, or do they pay him
This is
differently?
what we are paying.
Yeah.
But does Monroeville pay him 38,000, or do we both pay
I'm
him?
not aware of what Monroeville may happen to pay for their collection of their real estate taxes too.
Yeah, I think we just need to look at, because this,
That's a good-
we haven't voted on this, what, in
We
4 or
don't
5
even know if
years?
they're.
This
You
is the
have to
first time.
remember, the real
Like,
estate
these
taxes.
guys actually are trying to make it so they're not delinquent too, like they want to collect it.
But we also have a delinquent
I know,
tax, and we have.
but I'm
IRS.
saying, but maybe these guys are actually, maybe this person in Pitcairn's helping because they're getting, you know, a higher percentage of their.
Well, that's easily
You
found
have to
out.
remember that Monroeville doesn't get a great, the school district gets the greatest percentage of the real estate tax.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But typically, if you send them a letter, they're either paying the taxes or not paying the taxes.
it depends, I mean,
All I'm suggesting is that we might be able to save substantial dollars here if we just look at it a little differently than we have historically, that's all. And if you look at it in terms of the legal stuff,
I will.
then, Paul, we could come up with any number of formulas.
And I'd say look at other local
Yeah,
districts.
look at other local districts, what are they paying? And what, maybe the way to look at it is, what are they paying per $1,000 of collected taxes?
Well, and that's a problem, you can't really base it on that. Actually, you probably shouldn't base that on there
Why?
because
Based on millage.
our assessed value is constantly changing.
No, but if we're
Do it on
paying
some-
$38,000 to collect $48 million of local revenue, then there's a cost per thousand. You just
Yeah.
divide the 38 by the 40 million. You can do the same thing to anybody.
Absolutely, it shouldn't be based off of millage. If you go to
No.
Penn Hills, Woodland Hills, there's.
What's the cost to collect?
One of the other methodologies I've seen is based on number of parcels. Where-
Well,
where
let's
you
look
develop
at
a
it,
rate
but it seems
per
to me
map.
that,
That's consistently
You know, if I
applied, no
just-
matter what the millage is, no matter what the.
Well, that
assessed
kind of
value
makes
is.
sense.
If I
What he's
go out-
saying is that because it's 48 million here, 48 million there, he may be collecting from 20,000 more people.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's like, how many people are paying actually is, I think that's where you're heading.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's how much work they're actually doing, how many bills they're collecting.
well,
It's not how much they're collecting, it's how many bills they're
Well, I
collecting,
think it,
Big commercial.
technically.
I think it's very much how much they're collecting.
I mean,
Well, no, that's how much money we have to do with
Well,
our
of course,
business.
Monroeville Mall, you're gonna wanna collect,
Well,
but
Right.
That's
if
not.
you don't get,
If we have a
Right.
property in Pitcairn worth 30,000 and we have the Monroeville Mall, would you pay the person the same amount for collecting for parcels? Absolutely.
right.
Yes, if they.
What do we collect out of Pitcairn?
That's what I'm
$4 or
saying.
$5 million?
No, it's probably about $1 million, a little shy of $1 million.
So in school tax, so we're paying somebody $16,000 to collect $1 million, and somebody else $38,000 to collect
So that's like-
$3 million?
It's still the mechanics behind taking the duplicate processing to do.
Well, don't they do the same thing to collect?
Oh, yeah, it's still done regardless of whether you have a parcel bringing in $5 million or $50.
I agree with Steve, I think we
Yeah.
should look into
Yeah.
it.
Just, why don't we look at it?
From a
and see-
business standpoint, it seems absurd right now.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean, I hear you, but I'm saying, like, for instance, like, I don't know the numbers at all, but like Pitcairn, I mean, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying that Pitcairn may have 20,000 collections, and Monroeville may have 35,000 collections. Now, the monies were what you said, it's 40 million. But in order to be able to do that process for 20,000 collections, it costs X amount of money.
okay, that's a legitimate point, but that's information that we can access very easily.
Right, I think
You know,
I think that,
but I don't think that-
we shouldn't just be looking at the number, we should be looking at
Sure.
it in the totality.
And we can look at it
of
within
what they're doing.
context, and we can look at it that way. Personally, I doubt very seriously whether that would affect it, but it's a legitimate question to ask. Because listen, there may well be a $10,000 bill sitting on the table here. Why not try to get it? It certainly seems crazy to me to spend 16 grand to collect $1 million and 38 to collect 43 million.
I agree.
Okay? So
Especially
it,
when nobody knows where the numbers came from.
yeah, so how do we get that looked at, Mr. President?
I'll have Mr. Schott take a look back, see if he can. We'll have
In the way back,
council.
I'll look at it.
So before we go out, we say, let me ask another question then. Let's just say for giggles and kicks that we put the 38 out and your analysis, even considering Neil's point of view, comes out to be like $4,000 for Pitcairn, and nobody bids on Pitcairn, can we then who would collect the taxes?
Be in trouble.
Well, only to the point of $1 million.
Well,
Okay.
well, and what even goes for Monroeville too, I mean.
Well, I understand that.
Let's just say if, and again.
Well,
not knowing, but
can we go then
if
to
we would
Monroeville?
detrimentally decrease this to the
It
point
just
where
seems
no
fun-
one would want to run.
Doesn't it
to
seem
do
funny
perform its
that,
function.
there's gotta be some law in here, like, the money is not this, because why are we, like, this is an elected official, actually, that we're paying.
Yes.
So. that
That's
seems a
why I
little-
need to look
It
to
looks a
see.
little funny.
I don't know.
Legally, but it's weird that it's just a number.
I don't know how
Maybe
they're.
that number represents something.
Neil, are you just trying to be contrarian?
No, I'm just saying, maybe
I'm just
that
trying to
number
save some
actually represents something.
I'm just trying.
That's a
sure-
big
I'm sure it
question.
does.
I
mean,
think
at
we all
some-
just
at
wanna
some
know where
point,
these numbers
that
came
was a
from.
starting point for these numbers. That,
Right, I
I
mean, it
know,
could-
I've no.
Because it's not like we
No,
can
I
just go
know,
to something.
I know
like
that was. It was when Pitcairn had 40,000 people down there. And maybe it could be something like
We
that.
call someone at Henfield that has a history.
Might they go by cent? I don't know.
I think that's before that person.
Let's look into it.
I got a
Mr. President.
question.
Never
I
know
got a
that
question.
question.
Question,
That's why
George.
this is a dynamic board.
Yes.
Can you find out how much he gets paid per year? The Monroeville tax collector?
Yes, yeah, I mean, that's the rate, the 38.
I mean, what he gets from Monroeville?
In total.
In total.
Total.
We could do that through right to know.
And also, right to know, okay. And also, how to go from 19 to 38,000? What was the difference, 19,000?
No, that's-
Right.
Those first two
It's split out
Half.
based on the
That's
days.
prorated, yeah.
At the end of the day, each of the years, depending on whether there would be a change in collector or not, the total was still not exceeded.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
38, 49.
Moving on.
Item number 6, seeking approval of the preventive maintenance service agreement for 3 weight rooms with G&G Fitness Equipment from December 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017, in the amount of $3,900 as depicted in Exhibit B. And again, this is a partial year agreement. The intent would be to present another resolution in June and establish it for a fiscal year to run from July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Questions, comments? Seeing none?
Item number 17, seeking approval for the architectural professional service fees and HVAC retro commission service fees for the applicable capital repair improvement projects to be completed during the 17-18 fiscal year. Specifically, approved architectural professional service fees with Artisan Architecture in the revised amount of $45,000.
We got it.
And again, that will be updated to $45,000.
Mr. Shaw, that's item number 7.
Yes, that is item number 7.
You said 17.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He was
Item number-
You're in the accounting.
It just feels like we're in 7.
Yes.
And that's 48,000.
So what we did was, we sat down and chatted a little bit, Bob Brown and I, and asked if they couldn't sharpen their pencils a little bit, and they did, and we saved another $4,000.
I have a question on that. Do we have a credit, so we've given them probably, well, not probably, well over $100,000 for projects that were never completed. I know that they messed up the accounting on one of them and we were given a credit. Has that credit already been used or do we still have a credit?
No, there's a credit of approximately $20,000 out
Is
there.
that gonna go towards this?
So can we reduce that?
Now, whether, and Mr. Brown, I believe, had the conversation with Mr. Postolu, whether some of that was what he was applying towards this reduction of $3,450, I can't say to that or not.
Why can't
So
you
he was
have all-
simply, I think it was because he said,
I would think.
I have the email right here where it's capped at 10%, which we never really agreed to, which I think is,
You know what, it wasn't raised, because I talked with Bob Brown today.
well, I think that's what they did was they just,
What do you mean?
they owed us a credit. It looks
Yes.
like they reduced it by, if I were to go on a limb and guess, it would be $4,845, correct?
Right.
Which would be 10%. So they owe us a credit of 20,000 in which they put a 10% cap on. So I'm curious as to why, I mean, we've paid this firm $100,000. I kind of brought this up as we went through the last thing. They owe us a credit of 20,000. They now are setting the terms that we're getting 10%. They didn't even give it to us until we called and talked to them. And then I guess imaginatively they brought up this 20,000 that they overcharged us for to begin with. Have we looked into others? Are we just flying off the seat of our pants here? What are we
Well,
doing?
again, the main reason to continue to utilize the services, particularly, we're looking at the roofs. They did our last 3 roofs for the district. They have the specifications ready with very minimal modifications required to be able to put this out on the street. And this is something we want to get out on the street as soon as possible.
What are they providing?
Well, they're
What are
actually,
they providing?
yeah,
For 45,000?
they're gonna do the specs for not just the roofs, they're gonna do the roofs, the specs for Ramsey and Evergreen, which, for example, includes all the core borings, all the asbestos testing, all the flashing testing, all the penetrations, you know, there's dozens of penetrations on a roof. Secondly, they're also gonna spec out all the HVAC systems for Ramsey, that's 7 systems, okay? And then thirdly, they're going to spec out all the electrical switching gear for Ramsey as well. So it's a substantial amount of work, and it's not, and it goes beyond just roofs.
Correct. And it's also the project administration involved. And what I did initially, ahead of time, looked at those projects based on our budget. We estimated them at $1,339,000. At the time, I utilized the current rate that was provided, the $48,450. Comes out to 3.62%, relating that fee to those proposed projects. So again, a very low rate in terms of what potentially architectural fees.
But we're not even under contract with these guys right now.
Correct, we don't have an architect of record.
Well, they are our current architect.
That's false. The architect of record expired in June. I have the document that says that. So my question is, if they owe us $22,207, can we take legal action to get $22,207 deduction? Because they messed up the bill. I mean, we have it clear as day. They're admitting that they messed this up. How they put this 10% cap on us doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know anything about the 10% cap, okay? I understand in general what you're saying. I would, the reason that these guys were recommended to me was that Bob had used them before, they did good work, okay? They gave us a bid of 48 plus. We asked them to reduce that, so we're $3,000 or $4,000 under our budgeted number that we brought forward and gave to the board. Can we separate the 2 issues so that these initiatives can go forward, so that we can go out and start to develop the bids for the roof, the HVAC systems, and the switching gear, and then address the $20,000.
But they owe us $22,000. Why can't we get it?
Well, I think we should get legal guidance on it, because if I'm the architecture firm, first of all, we've just sat on this $22,000 they owed us, they've given it to us in credit, and we've allowed them to create all terms on this. Now we're saying, okay,
We're gonna start using you again.
first of all, they didn't even give us the discount until we called and asked, and now they're giving us that 10%. I think we should take legal action, either get it or move on with it.
But my only concern,
My concern is this, when did this $22,000 come into place that they screwed us up?
May 26th, 2015.
Okay, so say we went away and they went away, so they would have $22,000 in their bank account collecting interest that belonged to Gateway School. Why didn't they just cut a check to us for the $22,800, and we would call it even, then we started a new business some other time?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that, our facilities manager recommended we go a different route. I think that's one of the, well, not I think, I know that's one of the main reasons I was pushing we go another route, is because they might do good work, but maybe their accounting department has problems, I don't know, but they charge us, first of all, we paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for work that was not done, and then they overcharged us $22,207.
no, I can't speak to what they didn't do prior years. Bob Brown recommended this outfit, okay? So, he recommended the outfit.
Well, he recommended something else that was voted down by the board.
He didn't recommend anything other than this to me, okay? And this is under our budgeted amount, and I'd like to see these projects go forward. Not that I disagree with trying to collect the 20 grand, but let's separate the 2, so that this work can go forward, and then whatever action needs to be taken on the 20 grand, take the action on the 20 grand.
But in general though, Steve, I mean, we basically were sitting there with a $22,000 credit.
Yep.
So I got this, I owe you $22,000. Now I'm gonna do business with you again for $45,000. Well, I just wanna pay you with the $22,000. That's the way it should go down.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
Like
I don't know how you can
shouldn't it?
separate the 2.
Makes
How,
sense to me.
if we start paying
but
them
the thing is,
$45,000,
let's
how are
just
they
pay
gonna
them.
wanna
How
give us
many
our
more,
credit?
if I pay with that 22,000, I don't want them to come back and say, well, you know what, now it's 35,000
No, I
addition.
hear you.
How
know what
many
I'm
more
saying? Like,
architects did he go to see who was bidding out?
Best of my knowledge, he went to them, only them.
Well, I don't think he bid them out because his original recommendation, which was on the agenda, was to go with ABM, who utilized their own architects, who utilized their own engineers. Now we're going outside, so we're paying architect fees, we're paying for engineers. So since the board voted down the original recommendation, this is what we're now left with.
But listen, we have we can certainly go to them. I don't care, okay? I just don't want to hold it up behind this, and that's all that would happen.
I've been saying that for months.
This debt's been out there for a long, long time, and we haven't tried to collect it. Don't try to collect it on projects that we're
Because we
trying to
But
get
this
done
is
this
what we're
summer.
starting to
We
do
haven't done any
business
work
with
with them
But
since
I-
then, I
But
don't
they're
think.
not the only architect firm. I mean, it baffles me. There's hundreds of them out there. I mean, that do roofs and everything. The thing is, if we find somebody that does a better job, and just because Bob Brown recommends it doesn't mean they're doing a better job.
Bill, why did?
That's my opinion.
Okay.
But the thing is, if they come across with 30,000 instead of 48, then you go back to the other guy, get the 22,000, he owes us, the project costs you 10,000.
Bill, why haven't we collected the 22,000, and how long has it been sitting out there?
It was awarded as a credit.
It was awarded as a credit.
All right.
When we met as a group for the Building and Grounds meeting, we discussed the architectural firm and the credits that were available to the district.
Well, then, look, why don't we do this? And if it's sitting as a credit, why don't we just pick up the phone and say, we're gonna contract with you for $45,000, but we're using the $22,000 as a credit against the 45?
That's decent.
It's, my understanding from our conversations, it's not a credit per se in the means that we paid something that we should have received back specifically. And there's some extenuating circumstances that factor into this as well. Again, there were some designing services that were done. They were instructed to look into things without determining fees. So we were paying hourly rates that were established. There were some projects that they designed that we did not move forward with, that we incurred some expenditures from. What Mr. Apostoli did was to go back and review the entire body of work that they had done for us for about a year or so, and that's where they developed the credit. It's not from something specific that was done. It was just basically going back and having some discussion and he came up with an amount.
Paul, was that the
You don't give
man
a credit unless
traps?
someone messes up.
That was one of
The
them.
man
Hey.
traps, and what
You're
else?
done. Question.
What else is not read? I know it was man traps, the expense to them, once we saw how
Man
much they
traps
were.
was one.
We
They
decided
did some
not to
work
go for
for the proposed field modifications up at the high school.
Which was never
Or
board
that were
approved.
being looked at,
Somewhat, what was that one?
the field modifications.
Which was never board
Is that-
approved.
You mean the one at baseball fields?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, we didn't.
yes.
But I'm still unsure as to why we couldn't take the 22 against the 45.
Well, again, we had some discussions and probably should have a little bit of discussion, executive session related to.
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Mr. President, I got a question for
We're
you.
going into
We got a
executive
motion
session.
and a
So
second.
moved.
I got one question before we go anywhere. Can I ask you?
Yes,
I requested a manager from a department to be here every time we had a board meeting. That way we could ask him specifically what was on our mind. Okay, we're saying hearsay, hearsay, hearsay. From now on, I can't see why Mr. Brown can't be here to answer some questions.
I think he was and he asked him.
Was, yeah.
What's that?
He was and we let him go.
That was back.
That was bad.
That was in the
Can we vote
executive
on this?
session.
we have a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Why don't we just tell him to leave?
Steph Mutza just walked out the door.
Go ahead, the boys are leaving.
Cameras on, microphones.
We don't have to leave, do we? We can just.
We got
Just have to make sure
microphones,
it's shut
cameras
down.
right now. Back from executive session for personnel. Moving on, section G, resolutions presented by board members. Do we have any this evening? I don't think we do. Comments from residents on non-agenda items.
He left.
Anybody signed up?
Nobody here.
No, they left.
Superintendent's report.
Let's start with,
While he's chewing
Let's
on
start-
that,
Nothing at this time, please.
resolution that Val brings
This is
those
Crump.
taxes to every meeting does are just delicious.
good,
Aren't
There's
they?
more.
Mr. Sharp?
good.
We ain't going out tonight.
Mrs.
That's what
Crump?
you can do.
Anything from you this evening?
Oh, for me, no, nothing at this time, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schott.
Nothing further, thank you.
Jakey?
Nothing at this.
Rossi? Mr. Short? Nothing at this time. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome back. Look forward to a wonderful 2017. Have a number of initiatives beginning. Met with the assistant superintendents. The science curriculum should be up and running, so we will be presenting that to the board very soon. Also, we have the superintendent's roundtable is scheduled for January 12th, I believe, at 6:30 up in the LGI. That was a postponement from the severe weather we had from the freeze.
That's not the
prior to-
roundtable, isn't it? Isn't that the open to the public meeting where you?
It's open to the public. We're calling it superintendent roundtable where all the PTOs, FTOs will be present. That's it, sir. Thank you, Mr. Short. Mr. Steubenport?
All right, a few things. First one, hopefully everyone had a very enjoyable and safe holiday season. The second one, for the policy committee, I'd like to try to find a date later this month where all administrators and the policy committee can get back together and really start to wrap up the process of auditing all of the policies, which we love so much. The only other thing I have this evening is just, if we have documents, whether it's an administrator, board member, anyone, that are pertinent to discussion at the meeting, so much so that we bring them to the meeting, I just ask that we can email them out to everyone beforehand, so we don't have to secretively find them or look back emails a year ago and just make sure that we have all the information available to us. So that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Chad. Mr. Nola?
Nothing tonight, thank you, sir.
Mr. Ritter?
Sure, 2 or 3 things. I'm going to the HL7, that's the Health Level 7 International meeting this 3rd week of January at San Antonio, Texas. I serve as a volunteer and lead a couple work groups there. And so I have to dial in during our regular meeting on Tuesday, okay? And while I'm there, I'm going to be working with some school health information technology experts on school health and personal health records. So I'll bring a report back as to what the interest was. It will be there. What progress might be made on the state or the national level, whether there's technical difficulties or policy difficulties or legislative difficulties, or whether there's interest in moving that forward. The goal is to enable a richer, fuller tool for the school nurses to use when caring for the students here and for coordinating care with the care team. So that's going to be fascinating. That's what I'll be there for a week. And the other thing is, we just received an Achievement Gap booklet for us to read. So thank you very much for delivering that to us, Achievement Gap Committee. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, John. Look forward to your reports when you come back. Mr. Byrne?
I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year and thank all of the residents of Monroeville and Pitcairn who have donated clothing items to Teachers' Treasures in the last year, and specifically Monica Sherm and Mary Beth Cerrucci for all of your help organizing Teachers' Treasures this month. I appreciate that.
Monica, I only helped about an hour.
Okay. Well, thank you nonetheless. And just a reminder that Teachers' Treasures is open every 3rd Wednesday of the month from 6:30 to 7:30, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell?
A couple of things. First of all, as promised, you have now the Achievement Gap Committee report. The first 16, 17 pages I would point you to are contain the kind of information that you want to make a decision. The rest of it is backup data. There are 2 sets of recommendations, one from the committee, another from the administration.
Bend your microphone.
Another from the administration. I will be asking for a date that the board would be comfortable with in terms of hearing from the committee on its set of recommendations, and after that, the board can vote on what it would like to do. There are 2 budgets in there to look at as well. Additionally, I'd like to point out that Bob Brown has brought in an outside electrical distributor to begin to inventory the exterior lights, so that we can, continue the process of bidding those things. Also, we are going to bring in some folks to look at the high school bathrooms to get an estimate per square foot cost. The original estimates that came in were, well, an estimate, I guess, from Apostolute is, from our point of view, too high. So we're going to go in and price it piece by piece. And then we're also going out for estimates on 2 all-purpose rooms. On the all-purpose rooms, to put the, at Evergreen and UP, to put the AC units in, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mary Beth?
I have a brief security update. 2 of our head officers, Brian Key and Mr. Skoog, are now ALICE trained, and they will be training the rest of the officers on the in-service day, Monday, January 23rd, on the ALICE training. Let's see. This in-service day, they're going to be doing their qualified shooting that's required for them. And then the rest of our officers are going to do their SRO training in June, as we mentioned last month, but they got 2 free enrollment slots now, so that's kind of a bonus. And then in June, 2 of our police officers will be taking the advanced SRO class, so that's a new addition. So I'm impressed that these guys are really taking the training seriously. They're putting a lot of effort, and they're moving pretty quickly. And I just want to give them a shout out for their thoroughness and their quickness at attending to these.
And are we still currently seeking officers?
Yes.
Yes, we are. We're interviewing 2 on Friday. 2 potential candidates.
So for officers interested, they should apply.
Absolutely. If there's anyone interested in applying for a part-time school police officer position, you can send your resume to Mrs. Patricia Crum.
Rebecca, where are they doing their shooting or at?
That is Holiday.
Hollidaysburg?
Hollidaysburg.
Hollidaysburg.
I believe they tried some other local facilities and were not able to acquire time there.
They try Monroeville?
I think so. I think they were, I don't want to speak to that
Okay.
without knowing for sure.
I just was curious as to where they
Me too, their policy says that they try to help local departments.
I believe they were denied, but I can get clarification.
Okay.
Anything else, Mary Beth?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Valerie?
Yes, I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. I've had the privilege of going to several basketball meets and swimming meets, and it's really impressive how well these girls are doing. The girls just won in overtime tonight, and the boys were winning 35-29 at the end of 3. So if anybody gets a chance, everything, it just looks great. I was talking to Mr. Avesti. He has asked if it's possible to put on the walls in the swimming pool area and in the gymnasium the alma mater. And then we're looking to see if it's possible after they do the, what's the one we always do?
National anthem.
Thank you, national anthem, that they have somebody come and do the alma mater, sing, like after they do the national anthem. I think it would be just good rapport. Also, they're looking to do with the athletic, Mr. Avesti has gotten together with Mr. Murphy, and they will be doing a teacher appreciation day with the basketball players and cheerleaders. We saw this happen up at Franklin Regional. It brings in, it really shows the seniors that are graduating will be writing an essay on teacher, someone in the district that has helped them get to where they are to As Chad is smiling, his aunt has always been one of the ones that have been recognized. And I think it's a really good thing to do. Just shows, the appreciation. It gets the kids involved with the teachers and all that. So he has not gotten together with a date, but it will be soon, coming up when the boys and girls are playing together. So we hope everybody can attend with that. And with that, that's all I have.
Can you let the board know when that happens? Because that was pretty cool. Okay.
Thank you, Val. George?
Yes, thank you, President. I got a question for Mr. Ritter. When you go to Harrisburg, will you see if they have any updates on the Narcan policies in Pennsylvania, anything new? So, our people can know about it, our nurses can know about it.
Well, I'll be going to San Antonio upcoming, but if I ever go to
Oh, I
Harrisburg...
thought you were going to Harrisburg. Okay, forget
Yeah,
that.
I will find myself in Harrisburg from time to time.
Okay.
Because that's, my interest is there, so yes, I will.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll keep my eyes open.
And I'm looking forward to working with this board again, all my colleagues, the assistant superintendents, and Mr. Short here. It was a challenging year last year, but I'm looking forward to this year, and I wish everybody a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Scotty, may I have one extra
Yes, go ahead.
second here? I've been debating whether to bring this up or not, but I went to a funeral today of a family from the Gateway School District, and there were drugs involved and a death. The family's hurting, of course. And so, thank you for reminding us again, George, that Narcan is a helpful tool. So I'd like to turn to Mr. Short and ask, do we have another program scheduled for those seniors who will be leaving us? Because sometimes drug use doesn't occur until you have left the safe environment here of schools and you're out in the world, and then something goes wrong, and then all of a sudden you find yourself on drugs and in trouble. So this needs to be a regularly occurring event. So let's have, are we planning to have one this coming semester, and then again in the fall, and repeat it again next year?
We do have drug education embedded within our health curriculum. However, as far as an assembly, I did receive an email from Mr. O'Donnell, who was contacted by, I guess, a friend years ago.
Yeah,
and I actually remember his children that went through Gateway, who is spearheading an effort to bring in drug awareness
Campaign.
Yes.
So I went to one of those in Plum about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I talked with the folks there and invited them to come over here. So I'll get you their information, and we just need to keep repeating this message, because a lot of times kids don't hear it, then all of a sudden it sticks. So repetition is good, especially in this area.
Scott, to John's point there, I do have a friend that works at CBS, and they have a program where they actually have a video and everything put together. They can just come into the health class, so just kind of in addition to what we already do. So I can share that information with you guys, and then if you see fit, if it makes sense, we can look at it.
Yeah, I think the health class is okay, but when you have a whole auditorium and all the students make some sort of a commitment, everyone who's going to agree to this, let's all stand up, and the whole auditorium stands up, or something like that, the peer pressure that occurs is a little different, because the students begin to say, look, they're standing, I'll stand too. So it helps those kids. Being educated in health class is one thing. I've got a degree in health education. But the peer pressure, I talked to my daughter about this a couple of days ago, the peer pressure, the group camaraderie has more sway sometimes than the actual education, the technical aspects of the education, so we need both.
One of the more powerful presentations, not related to drug and alcohol education, has been the Demi Moore.
Kuchia, yeah.
Kuchia, I'm sorry, Demi Kuchia presentation, where Mr. and Mrs. Kuchia have taken turns coming in. And we fill the auditorium, and that is such a powerful presentation, when not only it impacted someone from our community, but just the gathering of peers associated with one another. I definitely hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Can I have a...
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife talked into a health class last year for all the health classes at the high school, and
I attended it,
we got a heck of we had 4 or 5 kids that approached us after not after, it was weeks, months ahead of time. I mean, after the meeting. And I think we scored pretty good with these kids. But I feel, you know, instead of having movies like Chad, they're good. But if the person is directly affected in their family life, what happened to them, Gateway needs it to present it to like a,
The mind and the heart. Right.
yeah, have the classes like the high school, sit down in the auditorium one day and let these speakers speak, and I guarantee it's gonna hit home.
I actually think all three are excellent ideas because all three might reach each individual their own way. So if we could implement all three, that would be great.
Thank you.
Mary Beth, did you have an update?
I did. I got an answer to your question, Mrs. Warning. On 3 different occasions in August, September, and October, 3 different of our school police officers had conversations with Monroeville requesting for us to use their range to do our qualifications, and we're told, no, absolutely not. So they had to go out and look for another range at a cost, which they said they secured a good cost, which is why they're going out to Hollidaysburg.
Okay, thanks.
Could we look into if that's even allowed, just simply because I know it was built by taxpayer dollars? I just want to, I'd hope they're not trying to purposefully not allow our guys to train there.
I can look into it.
Sorry, Charles, did you have anything to share with us?
No, I have plenty to do, but nothing to share.
There's a lot of homework though.
I'd just like to wish everybody a happy new year, and being myself, just getting over a cold, whatever you call it, and I know a couple other people in this room that are sick. I just hope everybody gets over any colds or flus that they have, and I hope they start the new year off great. I hope we continue on with what we have. George, and you know, I know your new school board members, you got your first year in, and I was talking to Mary Beth today. You guys really got thrown into the fire, but you guys made it this far. You learned a lot on your own. My hat's off to you, and I'm proud to be working with everybody on this school board, along with the administrators.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll look for a motion for adjournment.
Motion for executive session.
I make a motion that we adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
We're adjourned. Thanks.
Hey, Candace.
We want to let the students come up and